There's no golden halls of, fame or, anything like that after you get caught. You know, it's uh, it's just thing that happens, and then you kind of on your own with it.
Mm.
And you start to think, is it like really worthwhile? The hassle.
Can you stick with that
Um,
for a second? You said you were on your own with it. Now that bec- with graffiti, people celebrate the triumphs of writers and artists that take it to that extreme. But even from a normal, family, friends, human standpoint, once you've got done for something, it's all internalized in your head, isn't it? And then you're left vulnerable and on your own dealing with your realities, right?
yeah, 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 absolutely. And it's some
Mad.
of my family, they're not speaking to me. There's people who get upset about it,
Really?
and
What, even
and
now?
well, unfortunately, yes.
Killa Kela podcast. KillaKelaOfficial.com.
Street Culture TV.
Instagram UK Frontline.
Beatbox created,
Killa Kela.
and we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela podcast.
Yo, Killa Kela podcast, live and direct, central London, or as central as you need to be. Choose to be, wanna be, baby boy. Don't waste your time anywhere else. It just won't get you anywhere. Okay, people, our sponsors, the mighty GK Nifty Heads, have 10,000 play to earn GraffPunks NFTs to give away. Get ready as London's white trash goes blockchain digital with Bitcoin Cash tokens locked into them to claim. Get yourselves over to the website gkniftyheads.com and play to earn now. On that note, we're going to see an international traveller, hence why we're on Zoom. A gentleman that doesn't just parade and participate in the UK side of things, but, he cut his chops, grew up and moved and shaped across Finland, Helsinki specifically. Graffiti writer, Supremo, DT, TDO, BMK, and Micro TU. Here he is, Nade One. How are we, my brother?
I'm all good, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's great to be part of this. Thank you so much.
Your style and the versatility in which you work is crazy. And then I delved a little bit more deeper into like your mid to late 90s beginnings, where you was pretty much writing just NAD as opposed to Nade, trains, etc. I mean, you've done a lot of stuff, bro.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I started. I mean, my first pieces on graffiti was like '96. So it's next year is 30 years, and yeah, it's been a kind of long time already, and yeah, I guess I done a, a few things in that time. Um,
Kept yourself out of trouble, sort of.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know what? When I started in '96, it was all different. Everything is different now. I sort of like I grew up in a small industrial city in Finland. Well, maybe it's a second city in Finland, but maybe kind of small from UK perspective.
Hmm.
And '90s there was kind of grim, and it was time before internet. I didn't know any graffiti writers or anything, but in my mind, I sort of like, I wanted to get into graffiti. It was like
Yeah.
a big dream for me, but it almost, felt like, dream so big that it was impossible, and I couldn't see graffiti anywhere, and there was no inspiration or anything, no YouTube, no internet, no
That's a
magazines.
crazy idea because I get it because having been to Helsinki in Finland, it's not that culture doesn't exist nowadays. It's more rife than ever. But for that time, you really had to search for shit. You had to look.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And especially when you don't know anyone. And I remember that I was looking for like graffiti pictures everywhere. I could find like maybe looking at verse really closely if there was like half a piece somewhere. I
Yeah.
took it like I had a little clip book and I tried to collect all the pictures and everything. And I somehow magically found like, couple duster pieces, like 1980s graffiti.
Yeah.
And I was, like, I studied them, like, my life would depend on that. And, I remember that there was like, that dust that throw up, there was like big arrow going through his throw up letters. And
Yeah.
that like, really inspired me. And I think, on my first little, graffiti experiments, I used that as well. I had like really, really city paint that, was like, from hardware store that
Yeah.
had like, fixed nozzle and had the sizzle, cap.
Yeah.
It didn't even give a round dot. And,
Just a
like,
blast.
yeah. And, you just didn't have didn't have any clue, no, there was no one to show you. I was, just like, lone full wolf starting up. And like everything was new, like, I did that like maybe 6 months or something. And
Yeah.
in 97, I still remember this so clearly. I went to local Hall of Fame, and there's like, it's still partially there.
Right.
And I went there, and I kind of like heard some noises, and some guy came there as well, and he started to take pictures of all the graffitis, there, and I was like, yeah, hold on a
Wow.
second.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great idea. And before that, I didn't even take any pictures. I just thought that, okay, it's there on the wall already. Why take picture? I just make new ones. And
Mm.
there's like couple chrome pieces from '97 that I really wish that they would have I would have a picture of those,
God, I
but
can
it just
imagine.
it
I
just
mean, because
doesn't
of the
exist.
scarcity, right? The scarcity of
Yeah,
the pieces. It's holding your mind, doesn't it?
yeah. And I then, like I around '97, I also realized that, okay, that everything I done is kind of like horrible toy stuff, and I had done like loads of damage. Like it was always clean walls. Somewhere I would sneak out my parents' home, and just like little rascal doing like horrible damage just anywhere. And I thought that, okay, maybe that was just like, my learning lesson. And now I start like with a proper word, and, I choose another word, so I don't get into any trouble and things like that.
So you
And I
switched up the
then,
words so you didn't get done for the ones you've already done.
yeah, exactly. And
Can we indulge in what that first word was?
yeah, it was AD, like
Right.
ad. Yeah.
Nice.
And I thought, that, yeah, okay, I'll do ad, why not? And, and, and I did like, maybe a couple pieces with that. And I thought, okay, I mean, that's way too short. 2 letters is like, it's too little, there's not enough,
Mm.
you can't make it flow, and it's tricky. So I did, okay, I'll add like N into beginning and E in the end.
Hmm.
And let's do Nade. And obviously, it was just random word for me. I didn't think about grenades or anything like that. It was just Nade. Yeah, I'll do Nade. And then, then I think I did a Nade somewhere. And I thought, okay, well, 4 letters, that's too long. I just do NAD. and, and then, I continue with NAD, yeah, I think most of the '90s stuff I done that word, and then I had like plenty of other aliases as well, because it was easy to get into trouble.
Was it
And
Nagst as well? NAGST? Was that right?
no, that's on me. That's someone else.
Right. Okay. Because it was like you
And
say, there was only a few. There was a few of graffiti writers at that time, right? That you'd be painting with. You've got these
yeah,
aliases as well. It's like,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I kind of like in '98, I and I think that's around time when I started to progress a lot. Um, I got to know some of like local hard hitters, and they were like they were like completely different league. Like they had been doing graffiti since the 1980s. They had done plenty of panels and, got into a lot of trouble. They were in like Finnish crime watch, and, they were they were like like Finland's most wanted. And
Shit.
then it was me, who done like, with a with pretty shitty toy stuff just a year ago. So it was like, huge contrast. But they kind of like took me on and, under their wings and showed me a lot of stuff, like, that's like, 90s style hip hop education that, you have like a mentor who's, showing you all the things and, getting you up to speed. And yeah, we painted a lot, like we did panels, we did a lot of damage, mostly like, unauthorized, chrome stuff and things like that. And in 99, I started to travel. I moved away from Finland. And that's, I think also, like early noughties and all of that, things started to change a little bit. People were started to get into clubbing and DJing and, going to the parties and not coming back for a couple of days. And it was like trickier to find people to paint with. Everyone was like started to do different things. And there was a major, uh, major, bust. A lot of people got busted around
Really?
like early noughties. And, in Finland, it was like people hated graffiti. It was like, they were disgusted about it. And so they were trying to stop it. They weren't just, trying to get a couple guys here and there. They were trying to, stop it completely.
Wow.
And yeah, I was part of one of the biggest graffiti trials, and a lot of people got into a lot of trouble in that. I didn't even live in Finland, but they sort of like came after me, and
Really?
yeah, I was just visiting, my hometown, and I jaywalked, and police stopped me, and said gave me like verbal warning, and then took my ID, and I didn't think about that, and I didn't think about that much. It was just like one silly thing that happens. And maybe like 3 or 4 days later, I was coming out of gym, with my mate, and I looked at my phone. There's a missed call from number I don't recognize, and I called up the number inquiry. Back then it was like number you would call, and there would be a person who would pick up.
Yeah.
And she was like, I can't really see any name for this number, but I can see that it's for home office internal interior ministry. And I was like, like, yeah, and it immediately hit me that I'm cooked, that
I'm in trouble.
yeah,
Shit.
exactly. It's that horrible sinking feeling.
Yes.
And you know that there's trouble coming. I went back to my bedside. I cleaned everything. I took everything. That anything that would incriminate me or something, and took it somewhere else. And then a couple days later, I got a call again. This time I answered it, and they told me that okay, come for interview 9 o'clock in the morning, and if you don't show up, we'll come and pick you up. And yes, and I went there, and there was they built up a big case, um, and there was a lot of trouble. There was a lot of pressure. Apparently, they had been interviewing a lot of people, and
Right.
the Vandal squad detective was saying that we know what you do. There's been people giving info about you. They've been telling,
Whoa.
that you have done this and this and this, and we know that you've been baiting trains, you've been doing all this, trouble, all these, hits, and and
God, I'm getting dry mouth thinking about it, bruv. That's
yeah,
peak.
yeah, and they kept me for one night. I was there first. I denied everything that I didn't have anything to do with any of that, and then on the second day they also had gone to my bedside and done the search. Didn't find anything, surprisingly, but thing is that really got me was that they had tapped my phone. So they had all the text messages. They had recorded the phone conversations. No one expected this for graffiti. It's
That's such a
completely
high
crazy.
level of, yeah.
And I couldn't think of that, and that's how they got me, and that landed me into trouble. And like I was there for the second day, and then they started to say that, okay, we have you for this and this and this and this and this, and he sort of like said that, okay, if you don't sign up, for these things, we'll keep you here and get you arrested and detained and blah blah blah, whatever. And he
Wow.
was saying to me that, okay, you sign two of the pieces. They were very visible, um, in the city center. One of them had been actually both of them had been headline news. It was both of those pieces were actually in in the newspapers, and
Wow.
and and he said that we do a deal. You sign for these two pieces, and I forget everything else. And I said, okay, I'll do that, but it's only about me. I won't give a comments about anyone else.
Yeah.
And so I admitted for these two pieces, and maybe I would have thought about it a little more if I would have known that they're going to charge me 10,000 euros for each of the pieces.
What?
Yeah, it was ridiculous, honestly. And they were notorious doing that kind of stuff. So people getting charged for one panel, 20,000 euros. So imagine you've done like 10. So you have 200,000 euros with 16% interest rate a year. So you never pay that. I just had a friend who got written off 500,000 euros because the debt expires in 20 years. So
Wow.
it's it's crazy, crazy. It's just mad. But they don't really. They try to avoid that. They don't put you in a prison. So that's sort of like that's very Nordic thing that they try to avoid that to the last thing.
Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know.
For money,
In
just for money gains.
Yeah, I guess that there's sort of like belief that it's it's really bad for a young person if he gets that sort of like prison sentence, and it will basically ruin him. So that's sort of like the Nordic thinking, and in general the sentences are usually quite lenient. So
Really?
they don't give out hard sentences. But some of this graffiti stuff was just too much.
How many?
Um,
So basically, you took the heat for the two when they could have quite easily, thrown book at you for a whole heap of other things and connected you with all the other pieces that were around you of that time from different
yeah,
writers. So
yeah, yeah,
you kind of took the heat.
yeah, yeah. And there was there was 13 persons on the trial. So that was massive trial, 13.
Yes. Wow.
And there was two other guys I painted a lot with, and and so Deal and people, uh, he got he already passed quite a long time ago. Unfortunately,
Rest in
passed
peace.
away. Yes, exactly. And they got him as well in the so he was in the same boat with me, and so was Deal, but they never got Deal. So he was able to get away with everything. Clever.
Very cool. Very cool.
uh,
Does it change that we're in 2025? These were many moons ago, but some emotional elements of this conversation would hold such impact. It would, and it would be okay in thinking, fuck doing this. I've just got bagged. It's costing me 20 grand. That's going to hang over my head until they cancel it out. I've just got to fucking chill. Like, there is some emotional attachment to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone feels that. I don't think there can be any other feeling after. And and it's a funny thing. There's no golden halls of fame or anything like that after you get caught. It's it's just a thing that happens, and then you kind of on your own with it. And you start to think, is it like really worthwhile, the hassle?
Can you stick with that for a second? You said you were on your own with it. Now, that with graffiti, people celebrate the triumphs of writers and artists that take it to that extreme. But even from a normal, family, friends, human standpoint, once you've got done for something, it's all internalized in your head, isn't it? And then you're left vulnerable and on your own dealing with your realities, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's some
Mad.
of my family, they're not speaking to me. There's people who get upset about it,
Really?
and
What, even
and
now?
well, unfortunately, yes.
Mm,
But luckily, most of the people aren't like that. But
mm,
yeah, I lost connection to some pretty close family members after that,
right.
and and yeah, it's a price you have to pay. It's
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because even from a beatboxing performance standpoint, it's hard to keep the dynamics and balance of relationship, family, work, and creative passions. The idea of like being told you can't do something like what I'm talking about because of the legality or because some of your family member disowns you. I'm like I think I would just keep on.
yeah. I mean, I what happened to me basically was that I never said that, okay, this is it. I never do graffiti again.
Mm,
But uh, I just I don't know. I just somehow a little bit forgot about it. I would in the whole of the noughties, I did like handful of pieces. I didn't stop, but
mm,
they could be like uh, piece once a year, or
mm,
and then next one would be okay. I did something in 2001, and next one would be in 2003. Then
mm.
I would go to Turning Fest with Killa Kela, and and that's
Yeah,
crew, and I
that's
would
right,
paint
baby.
there.
You know it.
I, I would paint a piece there, and it's sort of like maybe I don't think it was the only reason. I think in like maybe I mentioned it a little bit as well earlier that people started to get into other things in early noughties, and I think
Yeah.
the whole craft game started to sort of like slow down a little bit around that time, and
Mm,
you know, and then maybe around 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, that things really started to pick up, again.
nice.
And now we are in this, height that, things are getting, completely crazy. There's like a lot of stuff is getting done all the time. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy. I want to circle back round. You mentioned mentors and that that your peers for the time that you were coming up were they were influential in that transition, but between learning your craft and getting really up. I mean, a teacher is only as good as the mind of the student, and like you say, you get to 2002, 2003, 2004. You're now a peer, and you're navigating these new interests that people have, clubbing, etc., etc. Then I think social media creates this huge explosion. Do you then become a peer within the community of Helsinki? Do people look at you in a particular way? Because to be fair, and this isn't discrediting people that came up through the Instagram era, but a lot of that is just, picked up behavior because you're on a social platform. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to learn the techniques. You kind of, like you did, you need people to show you some rope, right?
yeah, I think, this, I mean, with this social media and all of that, things have got very different. And um, I, I think every now and then there's a bunch of new guys coming through, and they don't care about anyone, and they just sort of like they self-image is very biased. They think that they are top of the game. It's like bad behaving kids. but
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, I think uh, since I started like 30 years ago, I've seen this happen so many times already,
Mm-hmm.
and there's always some new guys coming through, and yeah, it's they are not learning in from mentors, and many times they are maybe picking up stuff from Instagram, YouTube, things like that. I don't think it's anything wrong. It's good to see that there's new people coming in, and that's healthy as well for the whole culture. Um, I'm not sure if I answered your question at
Yeah, no,
all.
you
Maybe I
have.
was just
No, you have. You
beating
have.
around it, but
No, not at all. Not at all. No, that's perfect. What I where I was going in my head as you were talking though was you it's cool that people just get up for getting up's sake. It's like, damage is damage and skills are skills, and if you kind of have them working in unison, then somewhere down the line things will start correlating, and we've seen that loads and loads of times over the decades. Just for me though, especially someone like myself who far from professors in being a graffiti artist, but I like the idea of learning. You know, I struggle to think, why wouldn't you take advantage of a peer? Why wouldn't you search for why wouldn't you search for the advice? Get what I'm saying?
yeah, absolutely, and I think there's still some of that elements left. I think
Mm.
it's not completely lost tradition. I think like people they have a chat in the festivals, and in the Hall of Fames, and maybe also some advices get given.
Mm.
So there's still personal connections. Um, but yeah, it's just a little bit different, and I think in general, I think people um, also sometimes are not so keen
Mm.
giving advices. Uh,
Or what, you think they hide their tools, kind of thing?
yeah, I think
Mm.
so a little bit, unless it's somebody in your crew, because it's everything is so competitive nowadays. It's crazy.
Mm.
It used to be way more chilled, but now it's just like constant competition and nothing is enough. you know.
Yeah.
It's like a fast forward, you know. Like if you would have painted 100 pieces 10 years ago, that have
Mm,
been really good.
mm.
Nowadays, 100 today, 100 pieces. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing, yeah.
So what?
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. It is like a toolbox when you think about all the techniques and everything. In fact, you know what? Arguably, if you weren't prolific like you're suggesting, and you're not intuitively like pushing your craft or pushing the technical things that you've learned. I don't know, you get stuck in a way sometimes. You get stuck in a rut, even though you know that there's techniques which you
Mm,
probably learned 5 years ago that you just wouldn't even remember and put into a piece.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
another
mean,
thing.
yeah, I mean, in the end, if you want to develop, it's that's your business kind of that, you need to be in charge of that, and
Mm,
you need to have the motivation, and you need to put in the work. There's
mm.
no other way, to that it will happen, and you need to paint a lot, if
I
you
think people
if you want.
underestimate that. People that don't paint underestimate.
Yeah, and sketching as well. Sketching is super important. For me, if I look at any writer, it's I look at the letters and how they come up. I don't
Mm,
care about the 1 million colors. I don't care about the glittery stuff, whatever is around there.
mm,
Uh, it needs to be the lettering needs to be solid. That's
mm.
that's the way it goes. To be a good writer.
It's fucking sick. See, there's some lessons in yourself. You see, my friends. But you travel. You are back and forth from London to here. I mean, you're going somewhere else after tomorrow, right? You're traveling somewhere else, right?
Yeah. I'm off to Italy tomorrow. So
Casual
yeah,
Italy.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, indeed.
Espressos in the morning. I see you.
Yeah. But traveling is always been really important to me. I always love traveling. I lived in different countries, and it's always been, something that has been driven by me. So not that I was in a circumstances that I had to move. The choice has always been done by myself. That okay, I want to, maybe live in London couple of years. I want to live in Berlin couple of years. I want
Mm,
to live in Amsterdam, East Europe, whatever. So it's yeah, traveling is I love traveling. That is you know
that's your thing. Is
yeah,
Graff the
yeah.
main driver for that? Is graffiti the main driver?
Thing is that weirdly, I done loads of traveling, but uh, I also in a lot of the places I never painted anything. Uh,
Really?
yeah, so maybe I wasn't mm, crazy active, or I wasn't super active back then.
Mm.
But maybe it's been also some other reasons that I just didn't get around to do it, and but um, but yeah, I nowadays for the past 10 years, if I go somewhere, I always try to leave something behind, and
Yeah. Oh, there's something really romantic about that idea, isn't it? That
yeah,
you do a
yeah,
piece and it stays there like one of your foot soldiers as you walk.
yeah,
I think
exactly.
Prime said that on Kings and Toys, and it kind of resonates, especially when you go into another country.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they can stay there for a long time. I have some uh, pieces that been up 30 years, or 25 years, a long time.
Wow.
And, of course, the paint has dropped and it's all faded and everything, but,
Mm.
you can still sort of like, it's a great feeling when you see one of your old pieces,
Or
and
someone takes a photo of it for you about, because the era discovery there, like 5 years later, they've taken the photo and it's been there that time. Cool as fuck.
yeah. And especially, like 20 years ago or 30 years, the paint was different,
Mm.
so you know, it lasted long.
Yeah,
Nowadays,
this is true, man.
nowadays the paint is a little bit different, and it can, you know, it's not so long lasting. So
And I guess in equal measure, people don't suffer from death so quickly.
yeah,
There's only one reason why that paint's staying on there so harshly. Is like, you know.
yeah, that's true as well.
Wait, what would you rather have? Huh? What would you rather have? DT, TDO. I mean, these are graffiti crews in the UK, and you know, Untouchables, my crew, your crew. You know, the legacy. You know,
Yeah, that's
crazy.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, especially when I was, you know, when Steamer asked me to join, you know,
Big up Steam,
TU,
my brother. Yes.
I was like, wow, you know, it's a legacy that I knew 20 years ago. You know, all the stories about race and you know, it's just such a big part of London graffiti history, and you know,
Yeah.
all of a sudden being part of that, you know,
Yeah.
crew is like that's really it was humbling, you know.
Crazy. Oh,
Um,
and rest in peace, Roan as well. TU.
yeah, exactly.
Wow. I
Rest
mean,
in peace,
that's
Ron.
it's very recent. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pick up Syme. I mean, yeah. I mean, Jesus, Catch. Enough heads. Enough heads. Yeah,
yeah,
Syme. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Wow. It's funny when you think about a crew and a legacy of that scale, and you know, graffiti was one arm of their many, you know, extracurricular activities. Graffiti, graffiti just doesn't always feel that way anymore. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I I I guess so. I mean, yeah, it's it's a little bit, I think, a little bit less, you know, like in a silo. And you know, when say word silo, I mean it in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
So there used to be like, you know, like 90s graffiti was quite local, you know, so you would have like, you would have the London guys, you would have somebody, you know, the other guys in Birmingham or whatever, and they were doing, you know, kind of their own thing, and you know, in their own little pockets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but nowadays, you know, like with social media and all of that, it's all like, you know, mixed, and
Mm-hmm.
and the styles are, you know, universal. Somebody, you know, somebody somewhere paints something, then it's, you know, traveling globally, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's, you know, mimicking, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think that's one thing that, you know, we kind of lost, you know, that sort of like, you know, local feeling, or you know, that at least,
Territorial, like
yeah,
territorial.
yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe so some of the legacy elements also, you know.
God, I never thought of that. Yeah, I think that must be it. Because with the more the scene and the culture expands, and from, you know, regional to country to global, you're seeing these ever changing nuances. Yeah, that's what it is. So it hasn't lost, actually. It's really gained.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool as fuck. That's cool as fuck. Because if you want it, it's there.
yeah. I don't, you know, yeah, and I don't want to, you know, sound like too negative about things. I think it's great, you know, that, you know, things are evolving and growing, and you know, it's clearly becoming a, you know, bigger thing. I
Mm,
think every year, um, but and it's going to be interesting to see where it grows. You know, how far we are going to get. You know, with
yeah.
everything, and
And where it can travel to
yeah,
next.
exactly,
Like
exactly.
Nade himself.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the future, my brother. Well, hopefully we'll see you in the autumn then, all being well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back on British soil.
Yeah.
Nade, man, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, my brother. Any shout outs
Likewise.
before you bounce, my guy? Any
I
shout out?
Everyone in my cruise, but I also want to maybe mention some of the Finland names that never gets mentioned.
Do it.
So
Send them up, please.
yeah, Air, Agmei, Dank, Deal, and yeah, so
Banging. That's what I like to hear. Google that shit. Names we need in the archive. Thank you very much, my brother. Nade
thanks
one
so
in the
much.
building.
It's been a pleasure, and thanks so much for having me.
Bruv, your stories have been crazy, and may they continue. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you.
Killa Kela podcast style like it was out of fashion, all right? Remember, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and crime don't pay, but neither did they. Don't you talk to anyone, I wouldn't you stay lucky, people? Nice one, Nade.
Thank you. See ya. Peace, bro.
Peace. Here we go.